If you want to have a successful decluttering journey, the one thing it needs is time and effort. But what if your time is already taken up by a demanding job and a young family? How do you fit decluttering in? In today's podcast, Harriet is going to share her story with us and explain what she's learned from spending time on transforming her family home.
You're listening to the Declutter Hub podcast, bringing you tried and tested, no-nonsense tips and advice from the leading experts in decluttering and organising your home. Now here's your host, Ingrid Jansen.
Hello and welcome, listeners. I'm Ingrid. If you're new to the Declutter Hub podcast, you're so welcome. What you'll find is that we try and find the fun factor in the serious business of decluttering. And if you've been here for a while, you know exactly what we mean. So thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to get involved in conversations related to this podcast, it all takes place in our free Facebook group. So come and join our lovely, warm and supportive community. Go to declutterhub.com/group to find out more. Well, hello, Harriet. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. It's lovely to see you.
Oh, it's so nice. And it's been a while since we've had a Declutter Hub member come onto the podcast to share their declutter journey. So we're absolutely delighted because it was actually you who reached out to us and said, I love the Declutter Hub so much. I've got so much to share. I want everybody else to know about the journey that I'm having. I'm happy to come onto the podcast. And we were like, yes.
Yes, that's right. I love listening to it so much. And I thought, do you know what? If I can talk to some people, talk to some members and chat to you and help anybody, then I'd love to do that.
Well, we're absolutely delighted. So I think we need to start at the beginning. Just share a little bit about yourself so our listeners have an idea who Harriet is and why you're here.
So I'm Harriet. I am a 40-something-year-old lady. I live in England, in the southwest of England. I am married with 3 gorgeous children, they're not babies anymore, but young, at school age. And so that's my home. And then I'm also a lawyer. So yeah, I did the usual thing, school, university, law school. I had, in my 20s and early 30s, I had a really busy life as a practicing lawyer in London, and then in Bristol in the UK. And then in my sort of early to mid 30s, that's when I started my family. And that's when, obviously, as anybody knows who's had some kind of big change in their life, everything kind of changed. And that's when the decluttering kind of clutter, or whatever journey you call it, that's when it kind of changed for me, when a big life event happened. And that's kind of what brought me to being interested in clutter and decluttering and the emotions. And gradually, as time's progressed, everything changed. So yeah, that's what kind of brought me here, really.
Lovely. And are you still a practicing lawyer at the moment?
So after I had my second child, so I have a daughter and 2 sons. So after I had my middle son, I tried to go back into private practice, but on a part-time basis, and managed it for a while. But then I wanted to step away from private practice just for a little while to try, as you were saying, it's the juggle all the time. Every day it's the juggle. And I'd wanted to try to see if I can make something easier. So I then decided to teach law. So I'm a law lecturer now in university. And so I'm still obviously a qualified lawyer, but I'm not practicing with clients, but I've swapped clients for students. So I'm not sure which is more challenging, but it's great. And so I'm, as I say, in a university in Bristol, teaching law to postgrads, but obviously that is not it's different. It's challenging and it's different. It's not any less stressful than it was with clients, but it's a little bit more family friendly than being in the office all the time, I suppose.
Yeah, because you don't work 5 days a week currently, right?
No. So I've experimented with all sorts of different permutations, like lots of people have. Funnily enough, it was probably easier when they were little babies rather than as they get a bit bigger. So I've done 4 days, I've done 3 days. I do half a week at the moment, 2.5 days, but it's not term time, it's sort of all year round. So, I try and balance the week. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes I juggle like everybody to adjust times and all the rest of it. But in theory, I'm at home half the week and working half the week.
Nice, nice. So do you think that shall we call it, the struggle with clutter then started when you started to grow your family? Is that what happened?
I've thought about this a lot. I think that's probably when I think I would probably describe myself before as sort of a high functioning messy person. Does that make sense? I think so. Obviously, I would say I've probably always been messy, and my whole family would test it. I don't know why, but I think it was maybe a tiny weeny act of rebellion, because obviously I was, I was a good girl. I did well in school, got good grades, all that kind of thing. And I wonder if it was a really tiny act of rebellion, to have a messy bedroom. I'm not sure, not conscious if it was, but anyway, I was always quite messy. University, obviously everybody's messy. I was messy then. And then I had a flat of my own. I moved to London and I was still messy, let's call it that. But there was only me. So I had a flat and I wasn't ever really there because I worked so hard, so long, so much. I was either in the office at my law firm, or I was out with my friends, or I was visiting people at the weekend. So I think, like I say, I was a high functioning messy person. So if I didn't do laundry for a week, it didn't matter. I just buy a pair of pants on the way to work. I never got that bad, but you know what I mean? It was always there. And then I had a little baby, obviously in my early 30s. And then obviously there was suddenly another person in my space, because my husband and I obviously moved in together. So that's 2 people, and he loves buying stuff. I'm not saying at all that he is, this is about me and my sort of decluttering story. But obviously when you've got another person there, they're bringing in more stuff and they have their own views on stuff. And then we had 1 baby and 2 babies and 3 babies. And I think before, I even didn't like the word clutter. I would have said, I kind of almost rebelled against that. And thought, what do you mean clutter? These are my precious things. These are my things. This isn't, it's that word even has got such negative connotations. And it took me a while to realize that not all things are equal. So, and I think, whereas in my 20s and even in when they were little, you either didn't have time for that, or I wasn't there. And then suddenly you find, okay, I'm getting a little bit more of a hand, I'm getting a bit more sleep, I'm getting a bit more handle on stuff, but I don't have the headspace anymore because there's suddenly not just me, there's 5 of us. And I forget stuff more than I did because I've got 3 little people asking me stuff, and I'm trying to just, I used to be able to carry everything in my head, and that's part of my job. I'm a lawyer. I'm good at disseminating information and categorizing and all that kind of thing. And suddenly my head wasn't working as well as it used to. And I thought, I have to simplify things, not in a minimalist kind of way at all, but just in a decluttering of my space, my head. And I realized that the house isn't going to get any bigger. And there's 5 of us in it now, and kids have lots of stuff, and it can be big stuff and awkward stuff. And suddenly, where there was just my clothes, there's now 5 people's clothes, and I thought, it's something's got to change. And it wasn't as extreme as sometimes you see on the TV, just where the whole house is full and can't open rooms and that kind of thing. It wasn't like that. It was a slow incremental, a pile of stuff here, or a messy cupboard here, or a drawer that doesn't close there, or 25 coats on the banisters, or kitchen surfaces, not, it was that slow incremental increase of stuff everywhere, and me sort of trying to coordinate my life, everyone's lives in the middle, and just thinking, what's wrong with me, really? Why can't I do this? What's wrong with my head? And that's when I thought, actually, maybe there is something to this clutter thing, and maybe it's not such a bad word, and actually maybe that is the right word, and there is a way to tackle it. So that's where I started from. I don't know if that did that help?
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I think what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like when you were by yourself in your flat, you could kind of, you know, almost like fly by the seat of your pants a little bit, you know, and kind of go.
Yeah, I almost took pride in that. I mean, you know, like work was so full on, is so full on, but you know, that's part of being a lawyer. And that's one of the reasons in a way I wanted to do the podcast, because I thought people might think that some people never struggle with clutter, or they're never the sort of people that you think they must have everything together. You know, like how on earth could somebody who is a lawyer or is meant to be organized and meant to be helping other people, how could they not have organization everywhere? And I thought, you know, and in a way I was like, yeah, I'm focused at work, organized at work. I could carry lots of information in my head, like I was, like you were saying, I was flying by the seat of my pants and kind of thinking, yeah, all that stuff's for other people, you know, I can do it. And even for a little while, you know, when I had the kids, and my husband works away as well, so it's just me really and the kids a lot in the week, which is full on, obviously. And I thought, I can do it, and everyone would say, oh, I don't know how she does it, and all that kind of thing. You think, yeah, I can do this, and actually behind the scenes you're thinking, I'm not sure I am doing this.
So on the surface, from the outside, everything kind of looked okay. You know, you showed up, there was 3 kids that were dressed and fed, but underneath or behind the scenes, you're probably paddling like a crazy person, like one of those ducks with their feet kicking like crazy underwater, going, I'm just about to barely keeping things afloat. And I think it's because in your 20s, you didn't really have any systems. There was no structure.
No.
It was all about work, and the free time you had was about, how do I get the most fun? Because I work so hard, I want to have fun. Who wants to do laundry? Who wants to go do a weekly shop, where you probably as well also had maybe a little bit more money as a lawyer, so you could kind of say, I'm just going to buy some new pants or some new tights, or when I run out, I don't have to worry about it, and I can just kind of see how I go, and never put the structure really in place that you can then take with you into a relationship.
That's exactly right. And because it wasn't inherent, because as I say, I had been you know, messy as a child, or you know, well, not just that it didn't come naturally. I would just put things down, or you know, and I, like you say, I never had either inherently a structure that I'd learned in childhood, or I never had made that conscious effort in my 20s. I was, like you say, I was doing other things, and then suddenly you find, actually, you know, you have to put it in place at some point. Otherwise, if you don't, you end up feeling overwhelmed and exhausted. And as I say, when the kids were babies, the exhaustion's there anyway, because obviously babies are exhausting, and then you know, then they sleep a bit more, and you kind of start back at work, and you kind of poke your head above the parapet for a bit, and you think, I'm still not now. Maybe I should have those systems in place, and when you don't, it just gets hard.
So is your husband? I know, because it's kind of a similar situation as what Leslie had because her husband used to work, is still working away a lot during the week as well. So she also had 3 kids, and maybe Leslie should have been the person doing this podcast, because it's very, very similar, isn't it? And was your husband a person? You said he kind of comes with a lot of stuff. He loves stuff. He comes with a lot of stuff, and of course, indeed, when you start to live together with somebody else, you really start to see the way they deal with time and money and items and spending their time. Did he come with structure, or was he also a bit like, we'll just see how we roll?
That's a really interesting question. So the first thing is that he is dyslexic. So he so one of he wouldn't mind me saying, because he will say it freely himself, but he's severely dyslexic. And one of the side effects, I don't know, symptoms, whatever you'd call it, and it's a very positive, it makes him who he is, and I adore him for it, and it makes him create and all that kind of thing. But one of the drawbacks is that he loses stuff a lot, and routines and structures and all that kind of thing is really tricky. So he had, when I first met him, he had a tidy flat, but he had, I can't remember what you call them on the bags of sweet bags, that's what you call it, isn't it? All over the place. So if somebody was coming around, he would just go whoosh off the table and then he would try and do that in our house. And for me, my character is, I like all the detail, as you'd expect. I like all the detail, and if I can't do it perfectly, I don't want to do anything. So the thought of somebody just sweeping lots of different sorts of stuff in a bag makes me feel a bit queasy. So we were very different in our outlooks. And I can remember when he moved out of his flat into my flat, I obviously went to help with him, the moving process. And I can remember opening up the hatch to his loft and poking my head in and just seeing this stuff everywhere. And I can remember it took like 10 loads of stuff to the tip from one person, one bachelor living on his own. I thought, what is all this stuff? So I kind of had a little insight into kind of the way he was. So I'm very conscious that if I don't try and have a system that is easy to follow, this is where we put the glasses, this is where we put, this is where your scarves are. Not that sounds patronizing, or is it like a primary school teacher? And I don't mean it like that. But if there is a system that's relatively easy, then that would be fine.
Yeah.
But if I let up, we'll have sweet bags piled up everywhere. So if you couple those two things together, and then so somebody who's really big picture and somebody who's micro detail, throw in exhaustion, throw in 3 kids, throw in 2 busy jobs, throw in. So he shortly after we moved to the southwest. So ironically we were in London, wanted to have a change, moved to the southwest, and that was all great. And then shortly after our second son was born, my husband got made redundant from his job in the southwest, which happens. And when I can remember when my son was, I think, 3 weeks, my middle son, my husband had to go back to London, and the place we left, lifestyle choice to leave, and then that's where the work was. And what are you going to do? Of course he was going to go Monday to Friday back to London, and of course I was going to make it work, because what's the alternative? But it's not easy to suddenly find yourself at home with a toddler and a baby. And then he's never really come back to the south. I mean, obviously he comes back at the weekends, and now he works for an American company, so about every 4 to 6 weeks he'll go to the US for 7 or 8 days. So when he's gone, he's really gone. So and that has its advantages and disadvantages. So but it can be tiring being the only grown up in that house. So but like I say, the alternative would be far worse. So you just kind of get on with it and just try and make it work. So but he I don't know, he likes, I've heard Leslie say this about her husband, he likes things. And of course now that he's in the US, he brings lots of fun stuff home every trip, and I kind of long for him to come home, and I think, what's going to be in that suitcase? Anyway,
And okay, I thought I want to ask you a question about it, but I thought maybe it's a bit of a personal question. But do you have conversations about that with him and go, I'm really trying to have less stuff in this house, and I know you love stuff, but is that a conversation you can have together?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think sometimes it would be nice to be able to have those. This is where I envy your Dutchness. Sometimes it would be nice to be able to have that conversation before the point when you need to have the conversation. That makes sense. So before the point that you're you're tired and you're stressed and you throw, well, I don't throw things often, but you're like, why have we got 10 coffee cups? And it would be lovely to be able to sit. So we have had the question. We often talk about it, but maybe not in a calm enough way, in the sense that you kind of talk about it at the point when it's too overwhelming.
Yeah.
So it would be brilliant, and maybe we all should try and have those. Maybe we should be more Dutch. We should try and have those conversations in a calm way. But I think now that we have the kids, I really feel a responsibility to talk about this stuff like it's completely normal.
Yeah.
Like, you do come in and you hang your coat up, because if we didn't all do that, then there'd be 5 coats on the floor. So, you know, and try and give them that appreciation that this is just what you do every day. You just have to do it every day. It's not much fun, but we're just all doing it. And found out that I was coming on the podcast. I played I played them a bit of one of your podcasts or something over dinner. And they were all screaming and you know, oh my goodness, Mummy's gonna make us do. I can't remember what it was about now. But so I am trying really hard to make it normal to talk about how we live in this house, because like I say, it's not getting any bigger.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really important. And I think, of course, you know, and it changes as well. I mean, I think your kids are now 6, 10, and 12.
Yeah.
So they need, you know, in my opinion, that's my opinion. I think kids need to participate and learn and do chores and be involved. And, you know, and of course, you know, one is sometimes better in one thing than the other, but they all need to have equal turns and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think it's really important that they also appreciate what they have, and not just drop everything to the floor, and be involved in the tidying up before dinner or after dinner, or with the chores, because, you know, you can't all do it by yourself, you know, when you've got a home and a job and a husband away, and everybody needs to pull their weight, and, you know.
And it's about trying to, you know, because I never wanted to be like a naggy mum. I never wanted to kind of just be, you know, shouting, you do this because I say so. And so I think if I can what I'm trying to do now is just make it normal, like you say, like, we do put our stuff in the dishwasher, we do put our coats up, and I think I've still got time. They're still quite little. I can help them and just make it part of life. So like you say, I've got one that likes folding, you know, one that's good at something else. So, you know, I'm trying really hard.
I think, you know, and sometimes you do feel like a broken record, right? You're like, oh my goodness. I mean, my kids are now nearly 16 and nearly 18. Every day, put the recycling in the thing, put your plate in the dishwasher. And I'm like, how old are you now? Why am I still saying this? But I just every day after they go, don't forget to do the recycling. And they're like, oh. And I'm like, well, it's got to be done. And I just then leave it, you know? But I do, if they forget and they walk away and I'm back in the kitchen and half an hour later it's not done, I do call them back. Like, kids, don't forget the recycling. Not that I don't want them to get away with it. I don't want to get, you know, but I'm like, no, that's your job. And I will, you know, you have to be consistent with that message. And I think you kind of hope at some point it goes in.
Absolutely. And I think it's about, like you say, just the stuff that's, I'm sure we'll probably talk about this later. It's kind of like the stuff that is the everyday, the resets, the stuff that I find by far the hardest. Give me a drawer to declutter and categorize. I'm the happiest girl in the Southwest, you know, because I like that. Naturally, I like that. And I'm very happy to do that for the family, you know, to do the kids' closets and to do their drawers and to do the, you know, the kitchen cupboard, so everything's got a home. I'm very happy. I like that kind of thing. Nagging, I hate that word, but you know, the reminding every day, that's not fun. You know, that's not fun. The fact that we've got a system, hopefully we've got some systems in place, not everywhere yet, but we are starting to get systems, and now we all have to follow them. And that's not fun, but like you say, hopefully the message will go in.
Well, let's go for a break. I've loved this first part so far. So let's go for a quick break, and we're definitely going to be talking to Harriett more after. So see you soon. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We're chatting to Harriett, who is one of the Declutter Hub members, and she's sharing with us kind of her decluttering journey. So let's dive a little bit in that. So you had the kids, you had the house. What happened? Did you gradually over time suddenly, or did something happen that you thought, okay, enough's enough already. I need to start tackling this.
No, I think so. There wasn't like a trigger moment or anything like that. I think, and I think that is interesting in itself. So I think it was this slow incremental increase
Yeah,
of stuff because of the increase of people,
yeah,
the decrease in the time, the increase in my exhaustion, and I think I just started to be less organized. I would be missing stuff, or I just couldn't keep on top of it as much. And it was at the same sort of time that I was, I think it's a word, mumfluencers. Is that a word?
yeah.
Like YouTube for mums was quite big with my kids were little, and they would do various videos about their seemingly perfect lives and their perfect children and their perfect organized homes. And I thought, oh my goodness, there are people there that are doing this. I say better than me. I don't mean that. It sounds like I'm judging, but myself. But when you're tired and you're overwhelmed, you're thinking, oh my goodness, they've got it all under control. Why can't I do it? So I kind of then obviously went down the rabbit hole of listening to people online and looking at videos and thinking, oh my goodness, and trying a few bits and bobs, trying a few hacks, trying a few systems, and they would work for a bit, and I might have an organized cupboard here, or I might have something that worked with the kids there, but it didn't actually solve the fundamental problem about an organized home that doesn't necessarily have to look beautiful but actually functions. And that's where I kind of started from, sort of trying things from, I say, from people who I'm not necessarily sure that the mumfluencer thing is like a big area, and it's not necessarily what I needed. Actually, I'm not sure it was, I'm not sure if it's the right thing when you're actually trying to just, when you're struggling with clutter, or so that's where I kind of started. And then, as I say, gradually, as the youngest one went to school, I thought, and I started to work fewer days, I thought I need to find a way of sort of doing more bigger projects, or kind of tackling a bedroom here and a bedroom there, because they were getting really full. And especially when my third child was born and was now into the teeniest, tiniest room, the little box room in the house, which is so small. You really have got to be on top of it, otherwise he's not going to fit in. That's when I tried, sort of different decluttering experts out there, or kind of started looking, I suppose.
Yeah. And what happened then? Where did you get started?
So I think I started with some of the US experts.
Yeah.
And again, there's some good stuff, but I found that my home didn't look a lot like their home. So it didn't have the big kind of storage spaces. So we haven't got a garage here or anything like that. We've just got a little shed. So I couldn't get rid of a lot of stuff. I think the mistake I'd been making was in the beginning that I thought I had to just find homes for all the stuff I had, rather than thinking, maybe there's too many things to find a home for.
You were focused on the organizing and the storage containers, but you bypassed actually, I need to declutter. There's too much stuff here. And even if I keep organizing it, it's never going to fit in.
Exactly. Without asking myself any of the questions about how I actually felt, why I wanted to do it, what I was hoping to achieve, what I wanted for my family, what I wanted for the house, why it's hard, why it's really hard to declutter. And I think this is one of the reasons why I wanted to come on the podcast, because I thought, there were so many people when I first started looking for help, there are so many things that you get bombarded with, saying, oh, you can do this in 5 minutes, you can do this in 10 minutes, or it's just a hack here or a tip there. If you turn all your coat hangers around, then you're suddenly going to be the most organized person in the world and your life will be fine. And I thought, well, I tried that, but I've still got clothes all over the floor. And I think it needed to be more systematic than that, and it needed to be more. It just needed to be, like you say, it's hard. It's a serious thing. It's a serious thing, decluttering, and you have to kind of think, okay, well, I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to beat myself about it. I'm just going to do this cupboard, and I'm just going to try and see if that works. And then it did, and I kind of, and I am still very much, there's still quite a lot to do, and it's almost like I've got to go around again to try and have another go at it all. But it's slowly.
Yeah, you're building up your decluttering muscle. We often talk a lot about round one and then round two. A lot of the members also mentioned that, kind of like in the first time you follow Ingrid and Leslie's system, that's almost the hardest, because you have to really look at all the emotions connected to the items and find out what's important to keep. While in round two, a lot of the systems are there, and you can really start to almost go a level deeper. So I'm not surprised that you're now saying, I want to go back to some
Yeah.
areas and do more. But you're still growing your decluttering muscle. You're still moving through your house and doing one area at a time, because you're doing this. So how do you fit it in, right? Because with 5 people, there must, yeah, and a job 2.5 days a week, school runs,
Yeah.
laundry
Yeah.
alone from 5 people. So
Yeah.
where do you find the time to fit your decluttering in?
Yeah. So I think it's about, so I'm quite good now at knowing what I find hard and what I find less hard.
Mm-hmm.
So some things I will I don't mind doing. I don't mind doing, and I will happily fit them in. Other things I think, oh my goodness, that's a bigger project, and then I have to be feeling really brave or schedule, some proper time to do it. So for me, funnily enough, stuff like paperwork, or just because of the nature of my job, that's not for me such a big thing, because I've been sorting out paper all my life at work. So that is not a big project. Whereas sentimental items, for example, I know that's a massive project. So I'm not ready for that. I know that it's pulling too many. The kids are quite small. A lot of the sentimental stuff will be stuff related to them. It's pulling at too many heartstrings. And I've managed to put it all in a cupboard, close the door. I know it's just sentimental items, and I will get to that when I'm able to do that.
Yeah.
The rest of it, I kind of try very much to do a little bit of decluttering when the opportunity presents itself. So, silly things. Well, we've just come back from holiday. When I was doing the packing, I pulled out all of the t-shirts in my son's drawer and got rid of the ones that were too small. So I just did it at the same time. So that's half of them gone, and then that's a drawer decluttered. So again, if I notice that a drawer in the kitchen, all the water bottles, half of them, maybe being used, then I'll just take everything out and just give it a quick wipe out and only put back the ones that we're using. Mm-hmm. So that sort of thing, I'm getting much better, and I'm much quicker at than I used to be. And I'm just trying to be much more careful about what comes in. That's not easy. That's really hard with, birthdays and Christmas and other people. That's not easy. But at least I'm kind of, at least the penny has dropped. Yeah. So I do try and do those little bits, and then obviously if I know that there's a big project, I'm going to have to look at my week a bit more, depending on what's going on, and then try and find a longer shot. But the thing that for me always goes to pot, and I don't know if it's the same for other members, is the resets when you're tired. And I think it almost should be called the reset tub, because I think once you've gone through the first round of it, and as I say, it's quite exciting when you first start getting it. Oh, there's another drawer, I'll have a go at that. But then the realization that no, you do have to wipe down the counters every night, you do have to put away all the stuff, you do have to make that laundry go through, you do have to do your ironing, you do all of that kind of stuff. Because and the days I struggle is when I'm not on top of that. If the kids have been at home for the holidays, so it's harder, then I don't have that quiet time. If they're at school and I come back, I can reset the house quicker than I ever used to be able to. Yeah. You can do it in half an hour, but if everyone's here and it's much harder. Yeah. So it's a work in progress, I think. But as I say, I just have more knowledge, I think. now.
Oh, that makes me happy.
Yeah.
Because I think it's so important that you learn as well. Because I think what a lot of people, okay, no, hold on. Let me ask you, how did you find the Declutter Hub, and what was it that you thought, I'm going to give that a go?
So I started with the podcast. So I was listening to an American decluttering podcaster, and you and Leslie were guests on their podcast.
Okay.
And I thought, oh, I like the sound of these voices. I like the sound of these ladies. So then I started listening to your podcast, following your podcast, and really enjoying it. I listen to a lot of podcasts when I'm on the school run or on the way to work, and I really liked it. And then I did a Reset Your Home challenge.
Yeah.
It was timed really well because it was in September, which is obviously here in the UK, that's our back to school time. That was the time when obviously we had the summer holidays, and it would have been chaos, and the house would have been probably maybe not at its worst, but would have been looking a little ropey. And I would have had a bit more time. I thought I can commit to this. I can do the I think it was 5 days or 7 days. I can't quite remember. And I would listen on replay because I couldn't always do it live, so I would do that. And then I thought, and at the end of that, then you introduce a membership, and there was a special offer. And I actually was sitting there, and I thought, maybe, you know what, that would be. It sounds really cheesy, but like a present to me, I thought maybe I can do this for me. And then so that's when I joined the membership, and I'm quite quiet in the membership. I'm not sort of very present, but I'm there in the background, kind of working my way slowly through things, following and I kind of dip in, dip out. And I was thinking about why, why I think you're different, or why I love it so much. And I think it's because, and this is going to sound really, I don't mean this in a bad way, but almost it's because it's not about you and Leslie, in the sense that, I mean, it is obviously your everything, but it's not about your life.
Mm-hmm.
You are a professional expert. It's not about Ingrid's day or Leslie's day or anything like. I mean, you do. We're very fortunate. You give us little glimpses into your life, but you're an expert. You're coming to us. You're not coming into us as an influencer that wants us to get involved in your life, us to buy. They're not that. You're not saying that you've had an epiphany and suddenly you're an expert. You're a professional. You're teaching us. It's a bit like a university. It's a bit like school. And like, if I was thinking, if I wanted to, know how to make a cake, I wouldn't suddenly just throw all the ingredients in a bowl randomly with no proportions and then berate myself because my cake hadn't risen. I'd go online and I'd find somebody that I trusted, that knows how to make a cake, and I'd follow the recipe, and then fingers crossed my cake would work. And it's the same, it's the same. You are professionals, and you're saying, start here, do this. And what I like is that you're doing that very clearly, but you're also saying, this is how you might feel. And if you feel like this, then that's okay. That is how you feel. And these things are difficult, and it can take time. And we're not going to tell you to, like you said you said before, we're not going to tell you to put all your children's books in rainbow colors, because who wants to do that? Just have a tidy bookshelf,
Yeah.
And I think that's, for me, what makes you different. And I love that, because some days I'm too busy to kind of, do a lot. So I might just do one tiny little thing, or watch one quick win, or then I dip in and I dip out. But I think probably almost every day I'll listen to something, even if it's not to do it, even if it's just to remember it. I think, oh, okay. I think I listen. Oh, sorry.
No, sorry. I think it's interesting because I think some members kind of they immerse themselves in everything that we offer, while other members love the accountability that we do on Zoom. Others love to ask us questions and show up to the Q&As. Others, I think that's what I'm hearing from you. You love the learning. You love all the courses, the learning. And I think that's how we started, right? Because we felt like we're the experts. We need to share our knowledge. And that's where we started building courses. And of course, over time, we realized, but hold on a minute. Everybody learns in a different way, and everybody wants something different. Some people need that accountability of showing up to our success sessions. Others love being part of a community of like-minded people. And I love it that you love the learning, because of course that was where we started.
Yeah.
and we build it out from there. And we've poured everything that we know, but we always try to go, well, you can do this. This is what we would do, but that could work or that could work. Do what works for you in your home, but here are some options, and I
Yeah.
think that's really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And occasionally I think, oh, I feel bad in a way that I can't contribute more to the membership in terms of sort of commenting or, being present as much. But like you say, I have a finite amount of time,
Yeah,
lots of people that need me and
yeah,
lots of things going on. But I'm there in the background, kind of, like, oh, I was thinking my wedding dress is hanging up in my son's bedroom, and I've been looking at it thinking, what on earth am I going to do with that? So I Googled like Leslie and Ingrid wedding dress, and sure enough, there was a podcast on what to do with your wedding dress, and I listened to it. I was like, oh yeah, it's and like it gave me, it helped me. It's
yeah.
like having, well, I was going to say a friend or a sister or something like that. And it's partly that, but it's more having a teacher. It's more having a really friendly teacher that knows the practical side of things, but also knows, and really importantly, knows how you might feel about something.
Yeah.
Because, like I say, some things are just really hard to declutter for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Actually, for me, I know it's linked to when the kids are little, or all about that kind of thing. So being able to say, okay, that is a bit hard, but I can do my mugs fine.
Yeah. Talking about the kids, have they seen it change now? You've been in the Declutter Hub since
Yeah,
for
since
a year,
year.
last year. Have you seen a change? I mean, of course, you've seen it change because you've been doing the work, but have other people around you seen a change and kind of gone, wow?
Yeah, funnily enough, I think so my husband has definitely said, and I said what I was saying before about like systems and where things are.
Yeah.
I think he's definitely said, oh yeah, I can, I've noticed, bits and bobs that you've done. And the kids do, I mean, little by little, things like hang up their coats, and things like silly things like we have a cupboard under the stairs that was packed, absolutely packed. And I pulled everything out, got rid of, decluttered it, and I've put a couple of big trugs in there for shoes, because shoes is always a problem by the front door. And I thought, it doesn't look pretty, but it works. And they get home and they open the cupboard and they throw their shoes in the trunk, and that works and it's fine.
Yeah.
So things like that. And they can see that their drawers are emptier, and they can and they know where the toys go. So they don't always put them in there, but they can. So yeah, I think it's more subconscious that they rather than a sort of I think it's a gradual thing.
Yeah.
But definitely they are kind of a little bit more aware of stuff than they ever were before.
Yeah.
Good.
So, and I think as well, you're right, those daily resets, the decluttering is one part of the journey, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's and the building of the systems and the organizing and the storage, but a big part is that maintenance, those daily and weekly resets that can be so boring. I mean, I happen to love folding. I don't mind ironing. I don't mind cleaning, but I know there's a lot of people who go, that's like my worst thing I could do in the day. I just don't like it. But we always say is that as the more stuff is being decluttered and goes into the right place, the easier your daily resets will become.
Yeah.
It will take shorter because things have a home to go to. The tidying up will be easier. The cleaning will be easier. But of course, you don't see that when you just start off with doing your mugs, right? You don't see that. You're like, I'm never going to get out of here. But when you start to put that decluttering in place, everything else starts to fall into motion. Laundry gets easier if there's less clothes, which sounds crazy because you think that if you got a lot of clothes, it's because you don't have so much to rush through all the time. But actually, the more clothes you have, the harder laundry is because it starts to pile up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm just physically a little bit quicker at it than I was. So this morning I dropped the children back at school, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, the house has been a mess, for whilst they've been away. It's going to take me ages. And actually I cleared down the kitchen, the utility room, the little dining area, and I cleaned it all, put lots of stuff away, I probably did it in about half an hour, and that was quite quick, really, considering it was after the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing it thinking, I know where to put the birthday cake candles. I know where to put all the shoes, gathering them all up. So I was really pleased with that, and I thought,
Yeah.
actually, it's progress. And it's not exciting for it. It's not very glamorous or anything like that. But I thought, actually, you know what? That's not too bad. So yeah, I think. But for me, that's the hardest part of it, because it's not it's not innate to me. I would rather come in and drop, not rather, but I would naturally come in and drop something. And it's kind of reminding myself all the time until hopefully I don't have to remind myself anymore.
Yeah.
But you got to do the washing up after dinner, otherwise you'll hate it in the morning. And
Yeah.
it's always true. It's always true. And if I'm really tired and I don't do it, I always hate it in the morning. So
Yeah. Well done. I'm absolutely have loved our conversation. It's so nice to see, everybody's journeys within the membership, and everybody goes about it in their own way. And like I said, everybody loves different parts. And don't you even worry that you feel you can't contribute. You're contributing in this fantastic way where other people can hear your story and the way you have kind of come into the membership, and you're trying to work your life, the stuff and the decluttering around your life, because it is, when you've got a job and a husband working away and 3 kids, it's a lot to take on, and you have to be able to. One of the teachings is that break it down, and that's exactly what you've been doing. You said several times, I'm just doing a little drawer after I'm doing a little bit, and that's how where you build on your successes. And it's just fantastic to hear. So thank you so much. This has made my day. Well, listeners, oh my gosh, if you know me a little bit, I'm like all emotional on this. Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's the hormones.
Thank you so much. Well, listeners, has Harriett's story inspired you to maybe tackle the clutter? Maybe you want to listen to some more podcasts. Maybe you want to come into our Facebook group. Maybe you, like Harriett, want to come into the membership and do lots more learning about the emotions that sit behind the stuff that is in your home, and how you can surely over time change that. So thank you again to Harriett for being a guest on our show. And please share. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to share with us a comment or anything like that, we would love to know. Go to declutterhub.com, find this episode and leave us a comment. Or go to our YouTube channel. You can leave us comments there as well. We read everything. So thanks so much for being here. And Harriett, thank you again.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for listening to the Declutter Hub podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to us in your podcast player so you don't miss an episode, and we'll see you next week.